Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everything Iconic with me, Danny Pellegrino. I'm very excited, a little bit nervous too, because I'm such a huge fan of our next guest, Jenny Slate. She stars in, created, she's all of the things in Marcel the Shell, which is my favorite movie of the year. Jenny, how are you today?
Oh, hi. That's very nice of you. I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good. I'm such a huge fan of your work. And after I saw this movie, first of all, you were at the screening. It was at the CAA. I think it was the CAA screening. And I
Yeah.
so badly wanted to come up to you. But of course, everyone was so excited to see you and tell you how good this movie was. So I didn't get to, but I'm so happy I get to now. It was just so beautiful. And it must feel so good that now it's out in the world. How are you feeling?
Oh, well, it's probably better now to talk now because we can actually talk. It's always like really hard to talk to anyone after a screening, I feel like. And it was like the first time I had been anywhere without my mask on. And I was like weirdly leaning away from everyone because I wasn't ready to actually do it. But in that, even with all of that, it's a thrill to see people have a nice reaction to the movie. Obviously this film is like really personal to those of us that made it. And it took 7 years to make. So, I mean, in one way or another, I think this is what we wanted to do. And I feel like complete about that, but it's always very nice that, then also people like it.
It was so good. Look, after the screening, I went and got the book because I just was so enamored by it. Of course, I had your book as well.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And I was curious because I was reading an interview and you said making this movie really inspired you creatively in so many other aspects, like writing your other book. And can you talk to me a little bit about that, like how that sort of snowballed?
Yeah, it was sort of a clarification for me, like being this character. We really stumbled into it. I know I stumbled into it, and I was coming off of a year of being on SNL. That's a really specific, type of comedy to do and done at a very specific pace in a very specific structure. And also that job had like always been my life's dream. And there was just something about it, many things that I was like, oh, I'm not as like well made for this as I thought. And it never crossed my mind in that kind of storm of being disappointed in myself and feeling maybe poorly matched, that there was actually still something that I did exactly like. And when I started doing the Marcel the Shell voice, I kept doing it just because I liked how it sounded, Usually it's bad when people say like they like listening to the sound of their own voice. But since it's just a voice that I do and not my own speaking voice, I think I can probably still get away with it. But I remember being like, oh, I like this. And I like that it definitely is still funny to me, at least, but it's not going through the same entryway that all of my other types of comedy is like going through. And I think I started to be like, it's not just that I feel happy and excited when I play Marcel. I feel relief. I really do. It's like somebody letting you have what you actually want to have for dinner. Like it feels like, I was trying to act like I wanted like the salmon bowl or whatever, but like, honestly, I just want chicken fingers, And I always do. And it's not that Marcel is chicken fingers, but it is comfort of some sort to me. And then I started to be like, well, where else could I find this feeling? And then I was like, oh, I think this actually might kind of like be my thing. Like I think talking about my feelings and making that into something that's useful, not just like being selfish about it, but crafting it into entertainment is like, I like that. This is what I would like open a store of if I could. This is what my confection is, and it's what kind of thing I like to do. And yeah, and I think it is in there. Like I think it's in my comedy, my special on Netflix, Stage Fright, which is a stand-up special, and I think in my book, Little Weirds, it's in there as well. It's just kind of like maybe just like a bit more straightforward.
Yeah, different form.
Yeah.
You mentioned a store. Doesn't your husband own a store in Massachusetts, right?
He does. He owns the general store in our town.
I saw a post you did on Instagram. I feel like I sound like a creepy fan. I promise I'm not too creepy, but not too creepy. But the store looks so cute. It's always been my dream to own a store like that. Like I love You've Got Mail, and I just always dreamed of having like a bookstore and like having little knickknacks to sell in there. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's what he has. It's like a grocery store, and they they sell local produce, and there's a lovely independent bookstore in there, and little toys for kids, and there's a bar and a little cafe, and it's great. You know, you can go there and get your like milk and eggs, or you could also like, you know, get the new I can't even like think of literally one author right now.
That's okay. My book just came out. It's right here. How do I unremember this? We'll put it in the store.
There it is. You can get your book.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious about this movie. I loved it. I saw it with my friend Amy. We're both adults, but I think it's really great for families. And I think kids are really going to respond to it. And I'm curious, like, what were the things when you were a kid? Like, what kinds of movies and TV shows were you inspired by, or did you latch onto as a young kid?
I mean, I always generally liked actors. Like I was always watching something, but for watching the actors, like not just the way, you know, like I guess it's must help like be how like athletes watch sports. Like they're sort of, you know, like mirroring the movement in their mind. And I grew up watching Sesame Street. I really, really loved it. It had a big effect on me. But also things like Pee-wee's Playhouse was a really huge deal to me. And Saturday Night Live always. But I also liked, you know, like I remember watching like Annie, you know, like Carol Burnett and Madeline Kahn. Those were kind of like my big go-tos. And we watched a lot of movies that we borrowed from the library before there was a video store in our town. And so I really know those like kind of Hollywood Technicolor musicals really well, like Brigadoon and Meet Me in St. Louis. I just love them so much. And I think it's nice to have a taste for those things because they are kind of becoming lost.
Yeah. What I found exciting about Marcel the Shell is that it seems like right now, especially for kids and for families, the only sort of type of family movie that I often see is like the big superhero movie, which I think there's a wonderful place for that. But when I was growing up, you had these showcases for actors like Robin Williams with Mrs. Doubtfire or something like that. And you had these sports movies. I grew up in movies like Little Giants and The Mighty Ducks and stuff like that. And we had so many different types of entertainment for kids, the Muppets, Sesame Street, that kind of stuff. And now it feels like there's one type of family movie. And so it's exciting that you and A24 made this movie that I don't know, would fit in and it's something kind of weird and quirky, but that kids are going to be, I think, really excited by and to see something that they're not going to see in one of those superhero movies.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the film doesn't really have like, it feels like to make it, I actually don't know. I would love to know like what it takes to get a film to the end of like a Pixar production line, you know, like what are they trying to hit? Like our film was just made by like me and Dean Fleischer-Camp, the director and co-writer, and Nick Paley, our co-writer, and Liz Holm, our producer. Like we're just like making a thing in a rental in LA. You know, like we weren't in a studio. We were like recording in an actual real house, or like, you know, when we were on a farm, we're recording on a farm, and we were just making a movie that we wanted to make. There was not any like market research that went into it. And I think, you know, especially now being a parent, like there's so much stuff for kids that feels so freaked out. Like it just feels like we're going to do it. Like we're going to give you the educational thing and like, it's going to be okay. And we're going to highlight a character that like goes on an honorable struggle and it's going to, you know, like, and there just wasn't any of that fuss about making this movie. I do think it's 100% appropriate for kids, but I think we truly made it first for ourselves and then for everybody else. Like, and I think it has that kind of like broad horizon to it because it's not overworked, even though we worked on it really hard.
There's also something interesting about showcasing grief in a way. And I don't mean to keep shitting on those superhero movies because I enjoy them and I think they're great. But
yeah, they're great.
When kids see those, it's like there's a death and then the next movie they're alive. And it's like they're kids having a hard time grasping grief. And my all-time favorite book is Bridge to Terabithia. And I read it as a kid. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. And it taught me about grief. And I think kids need entertainment that they can also process these things. And I worry that we sanitize so much for them that they're not getting some of these deeper lessons. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to push one thing more than another, but I am trying to like give myself what I need through my own work. I think like that's one of the reasons why I'm a performer and I'm a writer, is like, that's how I work through my feelings, so that they don't stay inside of me and just like start to fester. But, it's interesting that you bring up Bridge to Terabithia, which from my memory that's a Natalie Babbitt book.
Catherine Patterson.
Oh, Catherine Patterson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's the other book, like that's sort of in that same ilk of like those type of chapter books is like, do you remember The Search for Delicious? Oh, no. Tuck Everlasting.
Tuck Everlasting, which was a movie, I think, at one point. Yeah,
right, it was a movie. But like in that movie, it's about like a family that like drinks from this magical spring and they're like immortal now, like, or not immortal, but like they can't die. And like how much they want to, in a way, like some of them like really, really want to. And the importance of like a finite lifetime and like what you do in that time. I of course, these things aren't discussed anymore at all. And I'm not really sure why, but I could probably like make a lot of educated guesses. And I think like generally children sense things. I know as an adult, one of the things that freaks me out the most is when I can tell that there is something unsaid and that the strength is not being put into saying it. Because I think like when you don't bring stuff out that's obviously there, it becomes heavy and you make other people hold it in a way that is so deeply uncomfortable. If you say it's not there and then other people have to hold it, they feel crazy because obviously they feel its weight, but they're not allowed to speak about it. And I think children can really sense that. And they sense that like something is up, like they know their grandparents are old. So what does that mean? It means they're at the end of their lives. And like, that's hard to discuss, but definitely worth it. Yeah. Because if you don't, then like, I think kids, like they can get a lot of anxiety around things that are like inevitable, but also natural and okay, even though they are sad.
And then I think it builds up within whoever's carrying it, and it just keeps snowballing and snowballing until it finally erupts in some other way. Sometimes I think all of these feelings have to come out, but sometimes they either burst out or they trickle out. And I think I always feel like it's better to have it trickle out than burst out down the road.
Yeah, I think so.
Your breadth of work is so interesting to me. I loved Obvious Child. I mean, I love you on the Kroll show, which I have a question about that later. But what excites you? Like, what is there? Is it just case by case basis? Do you have like a larger picture plan for your career? Is that too big of a question, or is it just whatever kind of sparks your interest?
It is whatever sparks my interest, I'll say. I think I would probably have like a more coherent career if I did have a plan, and maybe a more successful one. But I tend to be like, I like that. I don't like that. I like that, but I don't want to leave my baby right now, so I won't be in that. And I think I make decisions because of like a variety of things. And especially now, I don't really live in LA very much anymore, except for just in like a few months in the winter time. And I want to enjoy my life. I've already I've been divorced. I'm lucky enough to like have made it through like different times of heartbreak, and to have eventually like, when I thought I wouldn't, like met my partner and have this daily life, and I cherish it. And it's different than like in my 20s when I was like, I want to work. And now I really want to work, but I also, 10 years from now, when I'm 50, want to look back on this time when like, whether or not I sometimes don't feel, like I don't feel this way, like I am still young. I want to feel like I enjoyed it and gave like everything its sort of equal turn. But I don't know, like a lot of times, have you watched the new show, The Bear?
I watched the first 2 episodes. It's a little anxiety inducing to me.
Sure.
Like, it's really great.
I mean, they're really yelling at each other. And like, I just want everyone to listen to the one guy who's obviously really good at cooking. Just clean up and do what he says. Right. Like, what are you guys, come on.
I also lived in Chicago and worked in the restaurant industry there. And so I think I'm like a little like
hitting a nerve.
Yeah. It's like a little bit like, okay, I know all these people and that's stressing me out.
Well, last night, I forget what the actor's name is, and he's so good, but he plays the cousin, and he like goes out to the line of people, and he has the bullhorn, and he just does this monologue And he nails it, and it's so good. It's so good. The acting is so good. And we were watching it, and after he finished his monologue, I just went, wow. And it's the kind of thing where like you see someone do something and you're like, I want to do that. Like, I just want somebody to give me the opportunity to floor it. That's what I'm looking for. I don't care if it's to floor it with kindness, you know, like with like, oh my God, that was the gentlest, most sweet, like most dear conversation between, you know, a grandchild and a grandmother. Or, oh my God, like she just swung a dog over her head. That, like, those are, you know, two opportunities that I've had recently where I'm like, okay, people are allowing me to floor it. And that's what I need to do, because I've arrived at this point in my life, and I'm lucky enough to have a handle on where I think my strengths are. And I'm just like, okay, now somebody like, let me go. And I really hope somebody does, you know, like I'm still kind of looking for the thing where I really get to like run.
Let it rip. See, I watch you and I'm like, oh, they're letting her rip. Like I watch Marcel the Shell, and it's funny you mentioned there. And I was thinking after I saw Marcel, I kind of had a weird introspective moment because I felt so inspired by it. And I was thinking like art begets art. And I feel like so many people, so many creatives are going to see Marcel the Shell and see something different they can make. And you probably will never know like what ultimately was created because of what you created with Marcel the Shell. But there's going to be so much crazy, weird, insane, unhinged, beautiful, sad, happy, like all sorts of crazy stuff that's going to be made because of Marcel the Shell. I don't know. I just thought, I was thinking how special that is. And I don't know when the last time I felt that way, seeing something. Maybe it was Everything Everywhere All at Once, which you mentioned. You have a small part in that. And that was another movie where I'm like, holy fuck, like this is crazy. And it blew my mind sort of wide open.
Yeah. And it works, you know, like that film is like to the maximum in every way. That film is flooring it the whole time. And it is a deeply hopeful film. It's like watching, you know, like someone do something at the Olympics and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they would even try to do that, to like jump off that thing while their feet are attached to a snowboard and they're going to like, you know, go upside down a million times. And you're like, yeah, but they're Olympians, you know, like that's how I feel about Daniels, who wrote and directed that movie, that they're both just, they really are Olympians of that type of expression. And it's really, really beautiful. And I think I'm like experiencing this weird thing, which is that like, just for me, in terms of like how my work is hitting, it's like, okay, well, I can see that luckily, you know, the reviews have been very good for the Marcel film. And
I mean, like stellar, 100% around Tomatoes.
They're really, really nice. I believe there's like one lady a person in the New York Times who like really apparently like was like, the voice is bad. And it's like, well, I don't know. I don't think that people think that, but
no, it's not true.
Thanks for putting that in the one newspaper that my community reads. Thank you. That deeply hurt my feelings. Whether
Everything
or not you're wondering, that really, really hurt my feelings. And by the way, of course, things can still like really hurt your feelings, even if generally they're cool. But I think I have really been off social media for like about 3 years. And I feel kind of rickety at it. Like coming back, I don't really want to post pictures of like what I'm eating or like my day in general, because I kind of just want to be in it. And I've stopped it for so long that it feels very unnatural to stop an experience to chronicle it, you know? But in that way, I'm also not really seeing what the reaction to the movie is. And like I remember when the film Obvious Child came out, which was like the real first like kind of movie I was ever in. It was very much online. That experience, like it felt like it was happening all day, all night, that somebody was talking to me about it and I was expressing myself about it, and it felt really like good and full. And this one, it sort of feels like I planted a tree on another planet. And I'm getting these like delayed transmissions back that are telling me that the tree has fruit on it and people are like eating it and making jam and pies out of it. And I'm like, good. Yeah. And
wait, so do you like that better, or is it sort of more, does it mean a little bit more that you're having a little bit of the delayed reaction to it?
I mean, it means that I have to keep it for myself, how I feel about the work. I think generally that's probably better for me, because like anyone else, I'm susceptible to being just totally, just like in my own, like simmered in my own syrup of flattery, like anybody can be taken by that. And just as one mean comment on the internet can really lay me out.
Spiral you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not like, I haven't developed a thick skin in that way. And in some way, I think the internet it connects us. And of course, Marcel only exists because of the internet. Like, I think a lot of the behavior on it is unnatural. And I don't really want to develop new reactions to try to protect myself against it, when I'm kind of like, I just think I'm like a more ancient being than this thing. And I don't want to change. Like, I just don't want to. And
well, it's interesting. I think everyone's relationship to the internet is evolving. And I think people are and in any business trying to figure out what their relationship is with something like Instagram or Twitter or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's still such a new thing for all of us to process. And I don't know. I feel like my relationship changes with it all the time too. It's like, I mostly just post clips from movies and stuff that I like now. And it's like, I just want to share the pop culture I like, but maybe, and I might change. I don't know. I feel like it constantly changes.
I think it just has to be fun. I think it just has to still be fun, and you know why you're doing it. And, now I know why I'm doing it, and it is really fun, but in one way or another, I'm like more shy than I was before. I feel a little like, I do feel vulnerable for sure.
Not to change the subject, this is a hard shift, but I got to talk about publicity, because obviously it's like the funniest thing. And that's something that's like, will forever be viral. It's a sketch you did on the Nick Kroll's show. And I wondered, like, some of the stuff you guys say to each other is so mean, but it's so good. Like, it's so hilarious. But I wonder was there ever a time where it got like too mean? Like, one of you said something. Does that make sense? Like, you said something and you're like, oh, that was just too far. Does that make sense?
I can't remember a time. I mean, those characters are so far from who we are.
Yeah,
I mean, they are truly, truly on the other side of a dimension. And that's why it's so funny to even walk around inside of their identities, because they're just so complete. I mean, I guess this is my Liz's trigger word, but they're ridiculous. And it wasn't that her but she got so upset when people would call her ridiculous. Like, she would be like, my dad always called me ridiculous. I thought I was ridiculous. But no, I mean, they are so mean to Cassandra, their assistant, that I think I would sometimes worry
about Cassandra.
That young actress would be like, because she was like really. She was just like cast to play an assistant. Nobody ever said that these two comedians were just going to hurl insults at her. Like, most of that was not scripted. Like, she was there to just come in and be like, you guys have a call right now. And we'd be like, okay, like, you don't have to scream it at us with the ugliest voice, and it was just like, that's not in the script. Like, and oh God, I just love those characters so much. And actually, Nick was interviewing me for like the A24 podcast. And in advance of that, I was like, I should watch some publicity, like, I've never really watched it. I just like filmed it and I just loved it. I mean, and that's a weird thing to say about your own work, but I think of it as like his thing first that I was like that I was allowed to be in. And I just think it is so funny. It is so wacky and hilarious. Right. And you are right. It is terribly mean.
Well, how do we get more of it? Like, I need more of it. There's I was recently watching on YouTube, somebody like spliced all of it together. Like, so it's just the public. So I was watching, it was very long, but I was sitting and just like crying, laughing, because it was an hour long of all of the sketches together. And it's just so
my
good.
God. Like when Liz B. Wait, which one am I? Liz.
I don't remember now. Liz.
I can't remember when Nick's Liz gets nomdied, and she gets left at the altar in a prank, and like it's truly like I remember on that day being like, this is too mean, you guys. Like, this sucks. It is horrible, and they're sitting there and like, what I love about the Liz that I play is that she is such a dum-dum, a nitwit. But she really sometimes says the most profound thing, or it's like, she'll just be like really descriptive. Like, she'll be like, Honestly, like you were completely pranked on national TV and everyone saw that and you'll never be able to erase it and it will be in your consciousness forever. But like your dress looks amazing. Like they like she just is somehow she grabs onto those words and I love that combo.
I love the bleeping of the ages. Like that's the funniest fucking thing ever. Like just 30 blank or whatever. It's so good. Okay, so Marcel, where's Marcel going next? Or we have, I know it took you 7 years, but like you're getting to work on the next one, right? Like I need the next one.
I would really like to do more, and I think Dean would too. It just like the conditions have to be right, and that was the same for making this film. It was like we really wanted to make this movie be this movie and have it be a small story of Marcel just like in this house and what his life was. And I think it'd be really fun to make a TV show. I think that would be really great because you could keep, you could do so many stories and also it'd be nice to have some singing in there.
Is there one place you would like to take Marcel? Like when you just sort of fantasize about it, like, oh, I'd love to take Marcel to another country or to an Olive Garden or, like, is there some place where you'd like, that would be fun to see Marcel in that environment?
I mean, he never really leaves the house is like kind of the rule,
Yeah.
It's about like turning the house into things that you never thought that it would be because he's so small that he rarely sees like if you took him to like, the aquarium, I think it would be too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought it was the most beautiful thing ever. And I don't care where he goes. I want more Marcel. And I think we need more Marcel merch too. I don't know if A24 can get on that. Like I would love to.
They're doing some.
Okay, good. Good. I know we're at the sort of beginning of this. It just expanded nationwide this past weekend. And I feel like it's just going to keep growing in more and more theaters and people will get to check it out. But I hope everyone goes with their families, or if you don't have kids, go see it with some friends. I was in a theater with all adults and like everyone just sobbing at the end and just loved it so much. So Dean's doing Lilo and Stitch next, right? The live action.
Oh yeah. He is.
Can you tell me anything about that? I love Lilo and Stitch so much. Do you know anything?
I don't know a thing about it. I just know that that he's going to do that and that I am sure he's going to do an incredible job. And like I remember watching that movie with him like many times over. Like he and I have watched that movie together many, many times. It was a big favorite. And it's so nice that he loves it so much, like it's he so cherishes it. You want that because I also feel like that's an undersung Disney movie. And it's just so good. And the performances and the story is really good. And I think he's going to do a beautiful job.
I can't wait to see it. Okay, let me see. Muppet Babies, you play Nanny. You were a fan of the Muppets, I assume, growing up, right? Were you a Muppet? Yeah. So that must be wild to be Nanny on the Muppet. And which I love the Muppet Babies series, the new one. My nieces and nephews watch it, and it's so inclusive. And I think it's beautiful how they've done it. So thank you. Yeah. And what's it like being a part of that?
That's a much different job, like way more different. And I think it might have I think that show might not be on anymore.
How dare they?
I think we're done. I think it's over, but
not acceptable.
It's really soothing to do that part because it's like they specifically ask for you to like really slow it down and smooth it out. And, it would just like chill me out. Cause Miss Nanny is like, she's just legs. So you don't like see her whole body. And like, there's something, I'm sure nobody else would be getting this from it. But like, for me, I'm just like, this is like a weird disembodied, like, I'm just saying things so smoothly and clearly. I'm just like, this is Paris, France. And it's just like, okay, chill me out.
It's so weird to think about all the characters that I grew up with that didn't have faces. Like I think of that show Home Improvement, like the neighbor never had a face. And the nanny
Wilson,
never had a face.
His name?
Wilson. Yeah, Wilson.
Which is weird because there's also Wilson in Castaway.
Yeah, the volleyball, right? Yeah. Did you have a favorite Muppet growing up?
I'm a big Gonzo person.
I interviewed Gonzo last year, like the actual Gonzo. It was like the best. I interviewed Gonzo, Miss Piggy, and Pepe the Prawn. It was the greatest day of my whole life. Like the actual Muppet performers. It was amazing. Yeah. Okay. Wait, I had one more question about. Did I have another Muppet question? Oh no, I did have a question about Marcel's voice. Do you just slip into it easy, or is it hard to slip into it? I mean, is it quick?
Yeah, just start to do it. It's like this. I just kind of like, it's harder to do it with headphones on because I like to stick my finger in my ear to really hear myself well, but yeah, I can do it.
Marcel, can you say you're listening to Everything Iconic with Danny Pellegrino? Is that a possibility?
Yeah. Okay. Ready? Hi, I'm Jenny Slate, and
hi, I'm Marcel the Shell, and you're listening to Everything Iconic with Danny Pellegrino.
Thank you, Marcel. Final thing I got to ask you, I ask all of my guests this, your favorite Mariah Carey song? And if you were choosing for People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive, who would you choose? It's got to be an actor, and it could be like a childhood crush or something like that.
Okay. I think my favorite Mariah Carey song is Honey.
Classic.
I love that. But I mean, it's like, come on, it's really, really hard to pick a Mariah Carey song. I'm a big, 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 big fan. And let's see, Sexiest Man Alive. Sorry, I'm really trying to.
Do you remember like your first childhood crush or someone that like first got you going when you were?
Well, I mean, when I was little, it was like all about Leonardo DiCaprio for me.
Sure. Like
big time. But I remember like the first like crush I had was like on Paul McCartney.
Oh,
like from their old videos,
Mm-hmm.
So not even 80s Paul McCartney, but like 60s Paul McCartney,
wow.
From the like Fool on the Hill video.
Was there a specific Leo that you were like, oh, that like, was it Romeo and Juliet? Was it Titanic? Yeah,
it Romeo. Well, first it was Romeo and Juliet, and then it was Titanic, and it was like crazy. I was like crazy for him. Yeah. And there was no internet then, so you couldn't like, you had to just like hope that there would be a picture of him somewhere, or that like Entertainment Tonight would have a piece on him.
I remember renting Basketball Diaries from the library, and like that did it for me, even though it's like it shouldn't be that sexy of a performance because he's, it's a mess. He's a mess in that, but I was so turned on by it.
Oh, I was just so turned on. I just could not believe it. And I remember like being, I don't know, maybe 15 years old, 16. I had just gotten my first bikini, and my family went on a vacation to Ojai, California, which is like an hour and a half away from LA. But I was like, this is where movie stars go. This is it. And I had this like fantasy. I spent the entire day in the pool with my bikini on, but also with goggles because I was like actually a dork, And I would do this like thing where I was role playing by myself. This is still like I was just such a young teen, it was not mature yet. And it's like the kind of thing where like you see a kid and they're like a little bit too old to be like acting something out alone by themselves, but you're just like, ugh, we're just going to make them feel so ashamed if we stop them. So whatever. But I would like swim underwater and then imagine that these two like beautiful long legs, like are like broke and like plunk down into the pool. And then I would like sort of like swim to the surface and be like, blah, and like come out of the water, like pushing my chest out and take my goggles off, and nobody would be there, obviously, because it was a daydream role play thing. But I would imagine that he would be there, Leonardo DiCaprio, and that he also was on vacation, maybe also with his mom, and that he would say like, was that just you swimming? And I would be like, yes. Me? Oh yeah, I'm just like wearing my bikini and stuff. And he'd be like, oh, interesting. And like we would start a conversation and fall in love.
Coincidentally, full circle, I think that is also the motif of the Butterfly music video with Mariah Carey. She's diving into the water and sort of coming out of the water in that James Bond-esque
Honey.
bathing suit. Honey.
She's on
you were recreating the Honey video with hopes of Leo.
I'm sure I probably was. And she's like on a jet ski, right?
Yeah, it's sort of like a James Bondy jet ski thing. Okay, Jenny, I know I got to let you go, but I'm just such a huge fan. Everyone's going to go check out Marcel the Shell. I also have to thank you on behalf of rom-com lovers everywhere. That butter scene in The Obvious Child is just, it's a classic rom-com scene with you and Jake Lacey. He's so cute in that, and you guys are great in that. And that movie's sort of having this renaissance because it's unfortunately so relevant to today.
Yeah. It's a good one to watch, I'd say.
So check that out. Check out Marcel the Shell. Jenny, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you was so nice to talk to you. And I'm so glad you liked the movie. Thank you so much.
I loved it. People are going to be obsessed with it for a while, but it's just going to keep growing and growing. And I can't recommend it enough to listeners of this show. Just go check out Marcel the Shell in theaters now. It's going to keep expanding. Thank you, Jenny.
Woo. Thank you. Have a nice one.
See you later.